This video continues the quick Getting Started guide to Genestack's Omics Data Manager. In particular, this video focuses on the Study Metainfo Editor. So at the end of our last tutorial, we were using the study browser and we'd search for a particular study of interest. Now we're going to click on that study to look at it in more detail. Clicking on a study takes us to the Study Metainfo Editor for Omics Data Manager. The name of the study is at the top of the window, and you can see the data model behind Omics Data Manager clearly through these tabs at the top. The first tab contains meta-info information and links at the study level. Attached to that is data at the sample level, and the tab title shows how many samples are present for this study. Then beyond that, we have tabs for different signal data types: expression, variant, and flow cytometry. Again, all bundled together with the study. Let's look at the study tab in more detail. Now firstly, I'm logged on as a normal non-curator user, and I'm not the owner of this study, so I've got the view only label. I can also see a red invalid metadata label. What that tells me is that one or more of the metadata fields for the study haven't passed validation. I can see this dummy study has some missing information, so that's probably the cause. If I was a curator user, then any invalid metadata fields would be more obviously flagged to me, and I'd be able to correct them. So what controls this validation? Well, it's templates, which I mentioned in the last tutorial, and just to remind you, they are predefined sets of metadata fields saying which fields are expected for a particular object type, for example a study or a sample or a signal data type, and then what rules apply to those fields, for example a specific controlled vocabulary. We'll cover templates in a future tutorial. What else do we have in the Study tab? Well, at the top here we've got the Genestack accession. This is a unique reference for this study object, which you can also use as a search term. The other fields here are defined by the template in use. Again, as a normal user I can't see that, but the administrator of your organisation can see and edit those. In the example I've got on the screen, we have a link to the data files, so we don't need to import large amounts of data to the system. You can link to data stored elsewhere, for example FTP folders or cloud storage, S3 and so on. I've also got some information about the source of the study and the study description and so on. The next tab along is the Samples tab. So again, I've only got view only and invalid metadata labels. As a curator user, I'd see a lot more useful information here. But even as a normal user, I can click the Show Summary button to get a quick overview of all of the metadata associated with the samples in one place. So I can see how many of my samples are male and female. The main body of the Samples tab is a spreadsheet view showing information about each of the samples. If you have too many samples, then the table is paginated. Each sample has its own unique Genestack accession, and as before, the metadata fields for samples are controlled by the template. In our case, we've got a link back to the external sample source, source ID, and a few metadata fields. Moving on to the signal data tabs, in this case expression, it's a similar story. The exact fields are determined by the template, but would typically contain metadata about a particular experiment, such as the instrument used, the normalization methods chosen, and so on. So that concludes our brief look at the Study Metainfo Editor. As a normal user, it's mostly of value in being the source of all of the searchable data from the study browser. However, it really comes into its own if you're a curator user who wants to curate or correct metadata. So look out for a tutorial on that in the future.